What do you understand by rapport?
I understand building rapport as establishing a connection between two or more parties to facilitate communication.
Okay, to facilitate communication. So meaning that if you're trying to build rapport, it's singularly because you want to communicate. Thank you. Any other person you want to try? What do you mean by rapport?
Okay,
What do you
Chris.
mean by rapport?
I know about
We're losing you.
that is beyond is better now.
Can you come again? Yeah,
Yeah,
please repeat
yeah,
yourself.
rapport for me is a communication between two or more people that is not formal. Not formal.
Yeah.
Relationship are beyond being formal. Yeah.
Okay. That's another way to look at it from your perspective. Do you know that these words are in itself, they are psychological, don't want to use language, but they are more like, they incline more to psychology. They are psychological vocabulary. You don't tend to use rapport on a normal day, kind of, except you want to intuitively initiate something that tends towards psychology. Please follow me because I'm trying to establish the conversation. Beyond just knowing that you need to communicate is the fact that you need to learn how to communicate well. And the process of learning how to communicate well establishes rapport, because this now brings in some element of human psychology, meaning that before you can communicate, you need to know certain psychological evidences about either the boss, like you said yesterday, or the subordinates, whichever one is the receiver of the message, or the person or the group of people you are going into conversation with or communication with. So you need to understand. So rapport is more like a body of, it's like a structure in communication that enables you to come into a space whereby you can psychologically, I don't want to use the word manipulate, but you can psychologically control. Yeah, that's the word. You can psychologically control the kind of experience you're going to have with the conversation or with the communication. So usually it's expected or is given that you should have command of your communication. So for instance, I was saying yesterday, you don't just open your mouth and talk and say, oh, you didn't mean what you said, right? That means you did not establish, you didn't build rapport. And sometimes when people have gotten to a point in a relationship where there is established trust, certain things are given. Okay, certain things are given. There is a level of vulnerability. You don't want to take those things for granted and just do things unadvisedly. So rapport will help you. When you build rapport is going to help you guide, control, and properly direct your communication system in such a way that you don't take things for granted, even though the person may not talk, but you don't take people for granted. And for instance, when people are vulnerable, you begin to observe people's weaknesses, their strength. You don't want to take their weaknesses for granted. Rather, you want to help them manage their weaknesses, and then you want to magnify or maximize their strength. So that's what this conversation tonight is going to be all about. How then do you build this rapport? Because you need it for you to effectively communicate. You need it for you to be able to fully take hold or have a command of your conversation and communication, and you won't have to get to a point whereby you tell people you never meant what you said. Okay, so let's look at some of the area of our discussion. First of all, one of the things that have helped me, like I said yesterday, I'm still growing. I still have a long way to go, so I haven't arrived, right? But however, the things I've learned along the way are part of what I'm sharing with you. Many years ago when I started conducting personality tests on myself, after I did, emotional intelligence and also clinical um, counseling, I realized that I need to create certain mindsets. Okay. Don't forget, we talked about this 2 days ago. Sorry, on Friday, no, on Saturday. I need to create certain mindsets, which is the growth mindset, which will enable me have a proper way of directing all the affairs of my life. And this also brings me down to the level of communication. There's a level of orientation, there's a level of mindset you need to have in order for you to be able to take a hold of or command and control, your structure of communication, the system of communication, which I described to be the rapport, creating that rapport, building the rapport. And the first thing you need to do is now to work on your mind. Okay. And to work on your mind, you must have the future of trust put in place. I always tell people that trust in relationship is never given, it is earned. The only person that give us trust fully paid, not because you and I warrant it or you deserve it, but a price has been paid way long before you and I were created or made. And that's, God himself, the creator, regardless of who you are, who I am, there's this trust he gives to us. And that's why he even give our life. He didn't make us puppets. Unlike we are human beings. When you invent product, when you manufacture or create product, you will put certain barriers, certain control on that product in such a way that you still have some level of manipulation. Even when you see in computing, when they create viruses, people that develop the viruses or program the viruses often have the antivirus. Okay, they often have the antivirus because they want to have full control. The same thing with this development of AI. People have been talking about how we relate with AI, interact with AI. We must get to a point whereby AI don't have total command of themselves or control of themselves. Humans should still retain and maintain the control of robots and every other thing that has to do with technology so that they don't go haywire. So it's a challenge with humans. We always want to have control over our product. But that is not the thing with God. God is not striving with us to have control of our life. In fact, He gave us free will. Whereas we create things and we don't give those things free will, but we have a free will. We have our own mind for us to be able to intuitively discern and know what is true and what is false, what is good and what is bad, what is evil and what is good, what is righteous and what is unrighteous. Okay, so that's what brings us here, because there is no way you don't want to kind of like when you want to effectively communicate, when you want to build successful relationship, that you don't have to think in this direction. There's a mindset, there's a particular way by which you need to govern your mind, and that's where the starting point of rapport starts from. And I called it the trust mapping, the trust mapping. Like I said, trust is earned, is not given. And you'll see by the time we exhaust the conversation today, how it is that trust is earned, not given. Okay. When you're looking at trust as an embodiment of knowledge or an embodiment of certain principles and concepts, it's deeply rooted in the fact that there's this misgiving that nobody is to be trusted. I don't know whether you've heard about that before. Maybe someone has said that to you. They say you can only trust yourself. Nobody is to be trusted. But that's not totally true, even though people have experiential knowledge about that statement, but that is not totally true. Yes, trust begins with yourself, because if you don't trust yourself, you can't trust any other person. And that's just the basic law. However, you can get to a point whereby you build enough rapport that you can give benefit of doubt to people. meaning that the person or the set of people have earned your trust. So there's a pathway to earning trust. There's a pathway to creating that rapport whereby you can establish some level of vulnerability. And don't forget, rapport has to do with bringing people within the close proximity to yourself, whereby you can relate heart to heart, mind to mind, be on the same page, emphasize things. And that not necessarily has to do with just only one aspect of your life. It can cut across different aspects of your life, albeit the professional aspect, the professional life, all dimensions. Remember the dimensions we dealt with. And nobody has submitted that first assignment yet. I asked you to write beyond the 5 dimensions I stated. I said, write the other dimensions that you can infer about your life, which you think we don't know, but you know that these are areas of your life. So I'm still expecting that from us. So how do you create these mind trust map? Okay. Imagine your mind. What are those things that you have built around yourself as a system that gets you results? I mean, that's a simple way to start with. Of course, it has to comply with uh, positive sanctions. It has to comply with minimum acceptable norms. Okay, so we are not talking about things that make you a violator, things that make you a defaulter, but things that makes you to, on the barest minimum, be a a compliant member of either a community where you belong to or a culture where you associate with. So there has to be a minimum baseline by which you want to determine the way you govern your life, the way you govern your behavior. So I've picked some of these things. I mean, these mapping can be bigger than this, but I've kind of like picked 4 of the quadrants that so much relate generally with people. If you really want to have a good trust map for yourself, right? And then you can entrust with people. The first one has to do with commitment. Commitment. How does commitment help to to build the level of trust that is needed for you to create that ambience, that closeness, that access in order for you to be able to effectively communicate and communicate well? Okay, because when you speak, you must be heard, like we described yesterday, and then the receiver receives and then able to comfortably, conveniently, confidently, give you feedback. Commitment helps you to bridge between idea and reality. And this is what I mean. Until you have actually shown reality, people hardly believe. And that's the reality of the world we live in. They will tell you seeing is believing. How will you be able to translate what you are saying that other people are not saying so that when you tell them, they can believe you and then agree with you and always be on the same terms with you and always want to come and seek to know what's new with you? Is with commitment. Let me look for a simpler way to explain commitment to you. Commitment is simply when you say A, you mean A, and you can always be found holding on to us or repeating A. Commitment is doing the same thing over and over and over again because you know that you need to get a result, and until you get a result, you're not going to give up. So when you're talking about commitment, commitment is looking at the idea of not giving up, the idea of continuing till the end, the idea of holding on to certain beliefs, your core beliefs, your value system, and not letting go for whatsoever reason. Commitment is antithetical to compromise, okay, to competition. When you're committed, you don't give a damn to competition. Every other person can be doing any other thing, but this one, this particular course you are given to is till the end, till you see the end, not that the course will see your end. That is the meaning of commitment. And people will always respect you and trust you for that kind of disposition, for that kind of devotion and dedication to a cause. So you can begin to imagine how come people don't trust you when you speak or when you show up, because they've seen some level of lack of commitment to whatever it is that you tell them about. Oh, you come today, you say, for instance, maybe you're a salesperson, you are selling, you are marketing a product, right? If you come back tomorrow, is it going to be the same brand, the same product you are selling, or you have switched over to something else because you might feel this one is not? So that means when you're talking about commitment, there's a level of faith associated with it. What's your faith level? How much do you believe in the things that you possess and the things that you exhibit? We're still talking about trust because these are things that makes people to establish trust with you and makes you earn trust with people. Then we talked about consistency. Consistency is an outshoot or offshoot, sorry, not outshoot, offshoot of commitment. You cannot be committed. You cannot be consistent except you are committed. In fact, the proof of your commitment is the show of your consistency. I'll repeat myself. The proof of your commitment is the show of the exhibition of consistency. Look at this program, for instance, now the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, now the 9. If you have been following through from the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you'll see the way we have consistently repeated certain concepts. Okay? For you to be able to attain what we are set as our goal, which is your growth and your personal or professional development in this program, if you are not consistently following through each of the steps along the way, because they all add up to a bigger picture, and you are committed to doing your assignments and doing all of that, at the end of the day, you may have a half-baked bread or half-baked cake, right? And that's what happens to many people's trust. Even when people are saying with their mouth that, oh, they trust you, but deep down in their hearts, the reflection is like they don't totally trust you. And when someone says they trust you, they should be able to entrust. They should be able to commit in return the level of commitment and consistency you have given to that relationship. And that's the proof that you have actually earned a trust. But when that is not the case, then you see that it is actually half-baked or it is incomplete, it is imperfect. So consistency is the proof or the exhibition that you are committed to a cause. And this cause we're talking about now is a relationship whereby you want to establish effective communication. So look at your life. All those things that you have said as your activities, all these assignments have been given you, your goals, things that you think you need to do for you. How committed do you think you're going to be to that goal? And what are the consistent steps you need to take? If it requires you to take for the next 12 months, 52 weeks, you are willing to go that journey, then when I see you, I will know that you are actually trustworthy. And beyond your personal goals, you can see that people can commit the whole world into your hand. People can commit domains, people can commit empires, people can commit lives, they can commit things into your hand. And this is how things work in the world. When you see people who are transformers, when you see people who are change agents, these are the values, these are the virtues that can be exhumed out of their life. Consistency, commitment, they are basic principles of entrustment. And that forms the basic mindset that each of these people have, which can be extracted out of their life. Then the other one is about integrity. Integrity. In fact, this is a critical and fundamental principle of trust. It is a critical and fundamental principle of trust. Out of all the tests that you need to pass in life, the test of integrity is one of the greatest tests of trust. Integrity. Someone can pass the test of commitment, you can pass the test of consistency, but the question is, will the person pass the test of integrity? Because I've seen many people fail at this junction. Person is so dutiful, is so committed to work, but hey, when it comes to integrity, it's lacking. So you see the reason why even the so-called consistent and committed fellow cannot be trusted. And people can only trust themselves. Like they will say, all people are corrupt. And I always tell them there's always an exception, and that person is me. because I know I am not corrupt. It's just the perception of the world we live in. And we shouldn't allow this to ride over us in terms of forming that warped mentality in us to think that, I mean, everything is just corruptible. Okay. But with the proof of integrity, with the proof of integrity, you can actually establish trust in a quicker way. So when you're looking for a shortcut, I used to tell people when you're looking for a short cost for entrustment, just create a mindset, create a barrier of integrity. And what does integrity mean? It simply means sincerity, 100% sincerity, absolute, complete, holistic sincerity. When you say yes against all odds, let your yea be yea and let your nay be nay. And whatsoever you say, make sure that it is not just only fact checked, it is simply truth. Simply truth. So these are things that establishes integrity. Okay. And integrity does not respect any age, color codes, tribes, doesn't respect the language you speak, doesn't respect your even knowledge gap or whatever. Integrity is just simply integrity. Once you lack it, you lack it. You can't buy it with money. Okay. So that's why many people struggle with it. And it has to be a mindset that you need to develop, that you need to be someone who is honorable, who is honest, who is sincere in all ramifications of life. In all ramifications of life. So you might need to, after now, check again your value system because it's a better way for you to embrace integrity when you ensure that out of all the things you're going to enlist as part of your value or your core beliefs, integrity must not be found missing. So that I in all the combinations of your acronyms, I must always be there, and this integrity should be that high. Must be a man and a woman of integrity anywhere you're found in whatsoever situation or status or circumstance of life. And I think one of the greatest gifts I got from my dad happens to be issue of integrity. I remember when he died and I had to write um, eulogy for him. Um, and also, I had the privilege of having to write the inscription on his epitaph. This was exactly what I wrote about him on the night of the the wake keep, when I was sharing with people the little time I spent with him before he died. These were the things that, we both had the discussion around, and those words still keep ringing in my mind, and they serve as reminder, they serve as more like pointers, you know, whenever it is that I want to even forget. So you need to have those kind of indications or indicators in your life as well. That whenever it seems, because I won't lie to you, you'll face situations in life, challenges, some that you would never even imagine, you cannot fathom. Even when you are told, you can't imagine in terms of the magnitude of the impact it's going to have in your life, in terms of the weight it's going to carry, whether you have the capacity to bear or not. When those things happen, it's going to question your integrity. When those things happen, it's going to question, whether you're going to make some level of compromises or not on your integrity. But you need to be sure that you have actually created all those barriers, all those helpful indicators, so that you never forget and your mind will be fixed on the fact that integrity is something you need to always uphold. So very important. Then the final one, which is more like the final quadrant, has to do with your competencies, the level of your competencies. In life, I've realized why I will be so given to acquiring knowledge, building on my knowledge base is simply because it gives some level of credibility. Okay, it gives some level of credibility to my disposition. I used to share this a lot with people. Sometimes when I go in to a program or to engage people, to speak in the conference or to share with people and all of that. Many times I do have these experiences. I mean, people don't know me, or you might have gone online, read about me, blah, blah, blah. And I've been read my CV. Everybody happy, oh, they just want to meet this person. And voila, I appear, walk through the high, and everybody just went. I mean, naturally, people are usually taking off guard. Like, this wasn't the kind of person we're expecting because they will be looking for one mighty, big headed, and, all those kind of mind, pictures, carbon boards they might have created in their mind about the kind of person with this kind of CV. But unfortunately, I usually disappoint them with the kind of person that usually appear. Why am I saying this? If you are to appear the way you look in terms of maybe your physique and all of that, because not everybody is, attractive, not everybody is physically or I mean, not everybody is really endowed with physical beauty, right? So you must have something that will give you a leverage in order for you to be able to build that rapport, build closeness and access to people. Many a times is your competencies. I'm sure that many of us never care to know the way Elon Musk look like, Bill Gates looks like. You don't care to even know whether he has, like I was telling us last week, that some of us, we don't know whether the hand of Dangote is very hard, or maybe he has some tribal marks and all of that. What we are associated with and what we give credence to in the life of these people are the achievements, at the level of their competency, the level of their credibility, proven over a period of time because they keep solving problems and the value they deliver by the problems they solve. So this is another thing that can give you the entrustment that is required. And you need to create a mindset around it and then start seeking for how to build that level of competencies and credibility that is required for you to be able to have those accesses so that you can communicate at a higher level. And anytime those credibility and competencies are proven, trust me, you will always be heard. You'll be given that opportunity to be heard. I mean, you will always be given the opportunity to be heard. Trust me. Compared to, I'll give you another example. You know, I have a doctorate. I have about 4, 5 master's degree, BSc. I have one diploma. These are part of the dockets in my CV. I have almost about, I can't even count how many again, professional certifications in different institutions, across different professions. So when I put all these in my profile and I go anywhere, coupled with number of people in different areas of life that I've trained, I've mentored, by the time I put all this together and I want to assess, for instance, maybe the academicians, I know the aspect of my life, the aspect of my competencies, the aspect of my credibility, I'll push forward to them. So I have an entrance. Imagine on normal terms, right? For those of us who had been to postgraduate studies, you know that usually your lecturers, your supervisors are the most difficult people you need to deal with, right? So how will you come to terms with them? How will you be on the same page with them? Is by creating reports, right? And this is part of how you can create reports. You need to have something that will make them respect you and give you that credence and give you that level of acceptance of credibility. And that's what I usually do. Pull forward. So if I want to assess the vice chancellor of the university, I know how to do that, right? I know how to the right kind of access that is required without any form of manipulation. So this is, and it all requires some investment. And this is where I'm going to hand this mind stuff. You should be ready to make the level of investment that is required for you to do in order for you to have the level of credibility, develop the competencies, verifiable competencies, not that you just say, oh, this is your competence and it cannot be verified. No, verifiable competencies and level of acceptance that anybody will require in order for them to be able to give you access and control, right? So these are very, very important facts that will help you to build the right mindset in order for you to be trusted. So that because everybody is protected of their domains, they are protected of their own niche. They don't want you to come and become a nuisance or cause havoc in their niche. And that's exactly how it plays. So by the time you create this map way, right, you are going to keep following through the path. And this can be repeated over a period of time, depending on how you get your results. right? Your commitment, your consistency, your competencies. If you think you've gotten 1, 2, 3, you might need to push forward to get 4, 5, 6, right? You don't need to stop because you have the first degree, second degree, third degree, you have your PhD. You may necessarily not have to stop there if you haven't gotten. That's why I said it's about consistency. You might need to go for the second one. You might need to hit another track from another perspective, right? You know that. So by the time you accumulate all of these things, it pushes you forward and give you. So nothing, and that's where I'm going to, as long as it's targeted towards your purpose and you are not setting goals outside of your purpose. That's why we dealt with all this last week. You're not moving out of the way by which you are not moving out of your purpose, all our target. Nothing is wasted along the way. It may take you longer time than others, it may take you longer years, it's not competition, but there's nothing that is a waste there, okay, until you have actually hit your goal, right? So you see all these things at play in your life, and then you can easily come. And guess what? When you get results, it becomes a sweet story to tell. And that is why I can tell you all these things, because there are things that work perfectly for me. Okay. In fact, by the time you earn the trust and you have gained the access through reports, then it's now going to be on your own terms, not on their terms. People, you don't understand, and I just hope you can grab all these things. Communication and life is not going to be on your terms. You won't live life on other people's terms, because everybody comes to the conversation table or the dialogue table into the communication room, either the big room or bear or the smaller room, whichever room you come into to converse. You should always have a leverage to ensure that it's on your own terms and not on the other person's terms. In simple terms, always make sure that you are the boss that goes into the room to have a conversation, not the other way around. And the boss does not necessarily mean that you are called the boss. But when you begin to talk, when you begin to have the conversation, the person that has the command and has the upper edge is usually the boss. Even though at the end of the day, you still have a win-win, okay, because that's the goal of every conversation. It's also always targeted towards having a win-win. Okay, I don't know if you follow through up to this point. I see a comment in the chat box. He said, it's true. I never bothered to look at many of these billionaires until I saw them in one room recently for the inauguration of the news. Yeah, I mean, there's something to, and guess what? Many of them stumble into some of these concepts, having made a lot of mistakes, right? They won't tell you, and some of them may not be dutiful enough to be able to document their experiences adequately. But these are the basic principles that they have to adhere to in order for them to be able to emerge as well. Otherwise, whatever it is they are attaining or whatever they have attained might not be sustainable. But when you see them, especially those Fortune 500 CEOs, right, or even from Rockefellers, that most of their companies and empires are still surviving till now, they follow these principles. Their consistency, their commitment, the level of their integrity, their competencies, and all of that. They are just unquestionable, and this will help you to build what we're talking about. So let's look at, time is fast spent. Let's look at the other area, which you will find these in the book I shared with you by Tim Lyale. So I pulled these out in order to be able to expand it, right? But when you read the book, you will grab fully, and that's why I'm mandating that all of you should read the book. Okay, all of you must read the book. Is mandatory to read the book so that we can flow at the same level of understanding. It's all about you understanding your temperament, right? And what exactly does temperament mean? Anybody? If you hear the word temperament, what does it mean? What's the meaning of temperament? When they say, I'm sure you must have read, oh, you're temperamental. What's the meaning of temperament? I've said this over and over and over again from day one. There's a particular word I kept using. Using. I decided not to be using the word temperament so that I don't throw us off balance, but I use the simple language that you can understand. So what's temperament? Everybody should answer this. Don't call my hand. Sorry?
Okay.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Innate character or behavior.
Sorry, I can't hear you clearly.
Can you hear me?
No. Yeah, better now.
Okay, I said temperament refers to, you can say temperament is someone's innate character or behavior.
Yeah, very simple. Very, very simple. Your character or your behavior, or simply put, your disposition. That's the word I've been using. Disposition, 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 or posture. Your nature, who you are. Okay? Because you cannot separate your temperament from yourself. However, you can have control, you can have command over your temperament. Okay? It is only a fool. It is only a fool that will not be able to learn how to have control over his or her temperament. So when sometimes you tell someone you're a fool, it's a compliment. It's actually you telling the person his disposition. When I'm teaching or when I'm giving lectures on communication, and I get to this point when I begin to tell people about compliments, is always a barrage of misunderstanding. Like people can't just even fathom what I mean by that, right? Similarly, because of our cultural ideologies, our social idiosyncrasies, where we have already fixed our mindset on the fact that, oh, when you say this kind of cliches of words, it means that you're actually abusing people. No, no, not at all. You're actually describing, you are giving a description, albeit in a polite or impolite way, right? But it is just the truth. You are simply telling the truth in a blatant form, right? Someone fails to govern his or her behavior by simply because I can track it down to the point that the person does not even know who he is or who she is, right? Those are the kind of interpretation you can. But someone will tell you, oh, but you shouldn't have just said it plainer. Oh, so I should have lied. That means I'm not helping the person, you know. So that's just by the side, and that's just on the lighter note. So when you tell someone, oh, why are you behaving like a fool, or why are you just being foolish through your action, it's singularly trying to call the person to order about the way he or she is governing his or her behavior in your own opinion, because it's still your opinion. So it's not left to the person to determine whether this is a blind self or this is my hidden self that I need to really understand and then determine whether the person is right in his opinion or not. So when you look at this, Tim Liley, and you go through Tim Liley's book, I'm very, very sure that your life can never be the same because you're going to begin to see yourself from a different perspective. And what Tim pushed forward is the fact that every human being has four dominant types of temperament. I mean, two majorly you have two categories of behaviors, two categories, broad categories of behavior. Is either you are extroverted or you're introverted, right? And that can now be broken down into four areas. Okay, four areas, which you have the sanguine, the choleric, the phlegmatic, and then you have the melancholy. Okay, and then you now have the combination of these four. So when you do four combination, four, you're going to have 16, right? You're going to have 16, or is it four permutation, four? You will have 16 combinations of this, right? So you can have a scenario whereby you have sun choleric, or you have choleric sun, or you have melancholy sanguine, or sanguine melancholy. You have sanguine phlegmatic or phlegmatic. So you have those kind of combination in 16 ways, meaning that there is, to some extent, there are dominant characters, there are dominant disposition you have where others are recess, others are not dominant, but you find some manifestation in certain conditions. So they are more like seasonal. But the ones that is consistent to the commitment that you have given to a cause, you will see them obvious. So you need to conduct a test on yourself in order for you to be able to examine how this temperament works out in your life. But by and large, they are meant to point you to areas of your strength and then areas of your weaknesses in order for you to appreciate and accept your true disposition, your true temperament, and your true outlook, right? So that someone don't necessarily have to tell you, or if they tell you, you tell them, yes, I know that I am this, right? And they're actually alluding to the fact or to the truth of what you know by yourself. Any question? Any question? From the simple Venn diagram I showed here, are you seeing any portrait of yourself in any of these areas? Are you seeing the portrait of yourself? You have the choleric, who has a tendency of becoming a leader, a producer, a builder. And such a person has a weakness, being unsympathetic, insensitive, inconsiderate, hostile, angry, cruel, sarcastic, unforgiving, self-sufficient, domineering, opinionated, prejudiced, proud, crafty. These are the weaknesses of choleric. And of course, cholerics' dominant strength are being independent, productive, decisive, practical, visionary, optimistic, courageous, and being a leader. And all these workouts. So when you are talking about looking for credibility, these are areas where you want to build your credibility upon, right? As a choleric, you want to pursue more to become valued. Okay. How will you use your sense of courage, okay, to build opportunity for yourself? So, I mean, these are ways by which you can leverage on who you are in order for you to be able to open those doors and create those reports around you. Okay. Any question? Any question? Because I want us to touch connections before we end. Any question? So you can see the way building trust, establishing trust can help you to build reports. Are we on the same page?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's look at examples of connections. Just imagine your life. Okay. I just took two areas of critical trajectory, but of course, depending on how many goals you've set for yourself this year, there are several points of trajectory that you can set for yourself. I mean, that you can chart for yourself. You know, when you are setting goals, what you are trying to do is you are setting, a trajectory, either in a particular dimension or in all dimensions. So just imagine yourself. What are those nodes? What are the nodes that you need to establish for you to be able to get to the point where we call zenith, where we call the climax of your pursuit this year? And when I'm talking about nodes, I'm talking about pivoted points in your journey. Okay, nodes are pivoted points. There are critical things that you need to, more like creating some kind of intersection. You're having this kind of how should I put it now? Is at the point by which you can begin to determine productivity. Okay. So it's not much of the effort, it's not much of, I mean, there are some things that you even do effortlessly, but it's going to yield some level of fruit for you. That should be a point of connect. Like I used to tell people, forgetting what we used to be told that you need to work hard, you have to hustle, you have to strive. Those are the kind of motivation speeches that you hear. You hustle, you strive. Oftentimes, your connect may not necessarily be the things that you hustle around, may not necessarily be the things that you strive and stress and almost kind of like give up your breath chasing after. They are usually very strategic. They are intersecting points. They are points where you just need to connect with essence. You seize opportunity and so you need to identify those things. And that's where the major task lies for individuals, right? Is where the major assignment or task, responsibility lies with everyone. How to determine points of opportunities and seize it. It's not just enough for you to see opportunity, but learning how to seize those opportunities is what will establish connections for you. And guess what? For me, usually areas of my wins where I've succeeded before, where I have track of accomplishments are places that defines my connections. Okay. You have delivered value to people. You have helped. You have given some memories of um, you have given some sweet memories and all of that. They open doors because usually people don't forget. Okay, people don't forget. Even when people forget, incident happen that will make people to remember. done things for people 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, and something just happened and they come to remembrance. So those are points by which you can create some kind of connect. So this year, part of what you need to seek for is how to begin to establish those things one after the other. Okay. Like I was saying, it's not just about you seeking for what to be paid for to do, as simple as volunteering. Okay. And my own life, most of my trajectory has been defined by volunteering. My reports. And people will, I mean, it's only a senseless person that will imagine that if this person has been able to do A, B, C, D, that naturally could have worth hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, and did this effortlessly, selflessly, without being paid, and created this value. How much more when we now commit thousands and hundreds of dollars? So you see, opportunity will open. And this is just a simple secret. So imagine when you now create multiple streams of this kind of volunteering point for yourself. I mean, it's going to launch you like as if you were never stay put in the launch pad for too much. I mean, for too long a time. And that's why you see people who grow very, 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 very fast. Their journey is smoother. They're launching actually have a greater cruise when they begin from strategic nodes. And for me, my own strategic node is the issue of volunteering that I talked about. So I always seek for that. So volunteering can come in small ways, as you can see some of these nodes, depending on which part of your life you are moving to. You know, some might be that, you know, when you look at the solar system, it look like the solar system, all the planets that moves around the sun. That's what they call solar system. The 9 planets and much more that they say they are discovering now, starting from the Mercury, you know, to the Venus, Earth, Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn, Uranus, blah, 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 and all of that. You know, you see that the distance, imagine yourself as being the sun, and the distance to each of these are quite different, right? And they have their different futures, which they bear. Or just imagine, by the time you want to move from one point to the other, you can have a launch pad that can translocate you without you having any effort, because there are these metaphysical elements in life, in nature, which sometimes people themselves precipitate, they materialize for us. They are more like gatekeepers, they are door openers. And you just need to connect to those things in order for you to see how things sweeps in for you, you know. And when trust has been built, don't forget where we're coming from. You have established trust. It makes it even much easier. It makes it much easier for you to connect with opportunities. Because people whom you have earned your trust with will be the one seeing you making all these selfless sacrifices, seeing you making all this kind of value delivery, will surely come to the rescue and say, this one we cannot let go. This one we must pave way for him or her. This one must be the one to occupy this place or fix this thing. So they will be the one that will become your speaker. They will be the one that will become your heralds. They will be the one that will become the door opener. They will be the one that will become your cheerleaders, you know, because they want to see you succeed more, because their own success is now tied to your success. The more you succeed, the more they can tell you that, yes, they are also succeeding. So you see that this is how life works in its simple terms, and it continues to grow bigger and bigger. So for some, your nodes might be bigger than this, right? Because you have multiple points of connections through which you have pushed your trajectory and all make sense into one bowl for yourself. If you follow me up to this point, I hope I've not confused you at all. Did you connect with this knowledge? Please, I need feedbacks. Everybody is quiet.
We are not, sir.
Yes,
Someone like me,
Dr.
I'm pondering
Olashade,
on it. Was great.
you are pondering. It's too much, Abi.
No, it's actually a topic I've been looking for. In fact, yesterday's topic session I missed, and the issue is actually centered around what was discussed yesterday. So I would not want to distract this class. I will just go back and watch the session on YouTube and learn my lessons. Thank you, sir, for this one.
Okay. Okay, you're welcome. Yeah, so I just read Dr. Shade's comment in the chat. He said another way to see. Okay, so that was when we're talking about the character, temperament the other time. Yes, mood, very correct. You know, your expression, your disposition, correct. So your connections are things that you need to guide jealously. When they work for you, you want to keep repeating them. Trust me, because they form patterns in your life, unbroken patterns. If something has worked repeatedly in your life, trust me, is a major connection that you don't want to let go, right? And like we call in theology, we call it experiential relevance, right? Experiential relevance. They can never be taken away from you. They are things that even if the whole world doesn't understand, it works for you. You can see the evidence in your life, you can see the pathway by which it has produced result and all of that. Sometimes I used to ask people that how come someone in their wildest imagination will wake up one day and say consistently, is a rock, is a serpent, is a tree they want to be worshiping. How else will you describe the lowest level of human thinking? But guess what? It's because it has worked for them in their foolishness, in their depravity. It has worked for them. So these are evidences of experiential relevance, right? Someone prayed to a stone and believes deep in his heart or in her heart that the stone is the one that answered the prayer, even though that is foolish. But guess what? You will have to present a superior evidence, experiential in nature, for the person to be convinced. And that is why the easy way to change people at that level is for you to perform miracles. I guess, trust me, I mean, I haven't studied this in nature. If when Moses went to Pharaoh, to deliver the word of God and release the children of Israel, blah, 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 blah. If Moses has not performed repeatedly, back to back to back, to show a pattern of God's sovereignty and the supernatural evidence of God's existence in doing those 10 miracles, not magic, trust me, Pharaoh would have still adding desire. Even at that, you could see that he's still adding desire. So that is exactly the way life is. So just think about that. That's how life is. So what are those things that you hold on to as experiential relevance to you, as evidences of a pattern that governs your disposition? These are things that you can set as nodes for your connections, and they will always point you to where you will get results towards your goals. So sometimes you don't need to pursue. In fact, the day I realize is I just make life so simple for myself, right? Some things that you would naturally want to strive, those heavy words, strive, stress, you just relax patiently and somehow, reconfigure your temperament towards certain things. So when someone says I can't be changed, it's a lie. It's because you have not seen superior experiential relevance that will make you to change, right? And those are the things that I want you to relate with in such a way that as you're trying to establish your goals for the year, maybe the reason why over the years you have not been able to attain to the previous goals is because you don't have the right connections, which should begin with you, emanate from you, and not necessarily from someone else, because you might think that your help or your connection is with people. No, it's not with people. It starts from you. People should be attracted to your nodes, because that's why we call them intersections. There must be a meeting point, a convergence before you now have your divergence. There must be a convergence before you move towards your trajectory. And that is where you can have a term or terms to agree with people before you move to accomplishment. Otherwise, if it's on their terms, then they can manipulate you easily. And people at the end of the day will lose their dream ultimately. So you don't want that to become your experience. So these are things that I feel I should share with you that I believe is going to help you as you communicate your dreams, your visions, as you communicate relevance to people and see how to help deliver value or continue to push in solving problems. Okay, so I'm going to stop here and ask for question, or if there are areas you feel I'm supposed to touch as part of your pain point that I didn't talk about, that we can end for the day. Any question?
Yes, sir, I have a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
First of all, thank you for this session. Um,
Oh, you're welcome.
you highlighted things that we're supposed to do in order to build trust. And I believe when we build trust with people, we already establish rapport. But at what point do we need to begin this process, or do we just consistently stay committed, build on our integrity, and become reliable people where we are at, and then rapport will meet itself, something like that? Or while we are building up ourselves, at what point do you now take this step to reach out to people to see you? I don't know how to put it.
Okay, so if you follow my thoughts and my presentation, um, you understand that something comes before the other, right? And more so, I didn't tell you that you are building trust, you are establishing, because trust needs to be earned, not given. Given trust, right, means that you have sovereignty over the subject, and you cannot afford to be the subject. In fact, what I'm telling you is that in every communication, always present yourself to be the boss. Have a winning term so that you are not subjugated, so that you are not seen as a subordinate, because you will not stand a chance to have a win or to have how should I put it now? I mean, you will always be the one at the receiving end at the end of the day. So that's not how you want to plant your life through conversations or communication. So what I'm saying is trust is very important, and you need to build trust. How then, rapport. How then do you build rapport? As I defined to you what rapport is, creating that ambience, that environment, right? Where you have close, uh, uh, um, close position in order for you to be able to take hold of opportunities, right? How then do you build it? You start from establishing trust. How do you establish trust? You have to have these mindsets, right? The four quadrants I explained to you, from consistency to commitment to your integrity, and now to establishing or projecting, exhibiting your competencies that will bring about some level of reliability to everything you do. You can always be called on to. You are not someone that if someone is on a who wants to be a millionaire cannot call you and say, call a friend. You are never anywhere to be found. You can always deliver. You are a problem solver. That's what your high level competencies and verifiable capacity is going to prove to people, that when they are looking for someone that can solve this problem, they should always remember it. So then in the process, you have earned trust, and you have established the trust that we are talking about. So anything you want to, for instance, all these your goals you are setting, by the time you get to the point, you'll be seeing that even these goals you are pursuing, right? Some of them might not be your main preoccupation, yet you will attain it. I'm sure you must have heard of people they call destiny helpers. Are you
Yes,
flowing together with me?
yes, I'm following.
Okay, what do you think is the responsibility of helpers? Or let me
Um,
say support group. Maybe let me not use those cliches. When you have support group, what's the meaning of support group?
they seek out opportunities, or they feel that you're fit
Support
for
support group is basically to render help or render
help.
assistance to you in order for you to attain your goals. Okay.
Mm,
So there are certain goals you are pursuing, you have said you are pursuing, that you don't necessarily, it's like in risk management, you are transferring your risk to your support group. So they will be the race, what you're supposed to do or run, they'll be the one that will run on your behalf because you have shared value, you have shared knowledge, you have shared understanding, and they are committed to your cause. So they will take the responsibility up as though it's their responsibility. Don't forget, they also have their own race they're running. The same way you are sharing in other people's visions, because you, as an individual, may also be someone else's support group member. If you understand what I mean. And
Yes,
that's the
yes.
way, that's the way life is. There are some of us that were already committed to other people's dream and vision in life, and you are giving them support for them to achieve their dreams. So the race they're supposed to be running, you are running even more than, you are even more passionate than the visionary. You are more passionate than the owner of the goal, than the owner of the vision, right? So that is the level by which trust can, when trust is established, that's the level by which people can move and people can push on your behalf. And that's what I'm talking about connection. These are fruits of connection. These are outcomes. These are possible outcomes of connections. When you are rightly connected with people, they come around you. People open those doors where you begin to meet support groups, where you begin to see destiny helpers, where you begin to see people that the only thing they just need to do is to speak on your behalf, and it is solved. You don't just go and rest. I don't know whether you've seen such opportunity before. They will say, no, just go and sleep. It's done. It's a done deal. Those kind of things. It's about connection. And you don't need to pay your way with money. Some are doing it with money, but it's not sustainable. Some are using other things they feel they have to get this kind of connection. But no, I'm telling you, based on all these things I've shared with you, that is how to establish, you know, uh, 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 the right connection that is sustainable, and it will outlive your processes, that you can also come to begin to share your success story. I love what Dr. Ade posted. She said there is a fine line here, like you mentioned, manipulation, although you gave it another word. Oh, okay, this is not a contribution, it's a question. How do you get back the boss position if you have been maneuvered into a subordinate position and you feel you have been set aside and not taken seriously? Interesting. Very simple. It's like in mathematics, right? There's something we call plotting the graph. Either you are doing, I've forgotten all those topics. You are creating graphs. You usually have coordinates in space, right? Which is either X and Y, or maybe if there are three coordinates, X, Y, Z, but usually two coordinates. Let's use that one. You have one that starts directly from the origin, 0, 0. When you plot it, either it's in form of a curve, it usually have a directional trajectory because it starts from a known origin, which is 0, 0. Any other thing that doesn't start from 0, 0 is very, very difficult. In fact, in mathematics, we call them untraceable elements. Untraceable elements in mathematics. I remember, I did depth of further maths, regression, and all of that. So I can, talk about scatter diagrams and all of stuff. I still remember them vividly. So when you're talking about untraceable elements, it's because they don't have origin, no 0, 0. So usually you have to scatter the entire equation and then find a way to start plotting it from 0, 0. Anything you start from 0, 0, you can trace it back to the origin. That is what life means to all of us. If your life trajectory does not have an origin, okay, and in this case, the way you have started plotting yourself out, how you have been relating with people, the kind of discussion you have put out there, if it's based on falsehood, you have not, there are some people very, very funny. Oh, you meet all sorts of people, all sorts of human beings in this what's it called now? Human management profession. You will meet all sorts of human beings. Someone who had all his life or all her life has built empires on falsehood, on lies, went to a school, lied about it, married someone, lied about it, built a house, married about it, had a career, married about it, had a profession. Everything had been lie, 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 lie. I've met people like that. In fact, the one I met recently, like about 4 or 5 years ago, I had to run away from the person because I thought I was strong enough. When the person's position started affecting me, I had to just run away from the person by totally discarding the person from my radar. Up to now, I don't even know anything about the person. I don't care. I don't want to know the person. Because some people can be that very, very toxic, and you need to know. So in your case, people can be very manipulative, very, very true. In fact, that might be part of their own disposition and character. That's part of their temperament. And when you look at the temperament I showed you, usually people who are very manipulative are either sanguine because they talk too much, right? Most of what they say, they don't mean it, and it's just to get your attention and put you within the mode where they can control you. So they are usually manipulative people, kind of, and that's why you see all these jesters, you see all these hype men, all these cheerleaders, blah blah blah. Those are people. I mean, it's just, and they are very charismatic. They have this way of putting themselves out there so that they are naturally attractive. People, it might be, I mean, there's a way they will put themselves out there, either by their physical look or by their eloquence or, all those stuff. So they look almost irresistible. So there are so many manipulative people like that. So you need to be careful about them. You need to know them when you see them. And like Bola said many years ago before he died, he said, when you see charlatan, you call them by their name. And that's why I say sometimes when you tell someone that, why are you acting like a fool? Or why are you just, disposing yourself as a fool? You're not abusing the person, you're just helping the person to realize himself that he has forgotten who he is. So what you need to do is you need to trace back your step. Okay. Every problem has a root cause. Every problem. This is one of the easy ways solving problem in life, either personal or life or communal problem. There is always a root cause to every problem. Every problem has a root cause. You can use different technique. You can use a tree diagram. You can use there's another one, this Japanese. I mean, there are quite different styles by which you can apply to your scenario or situation. And once you discover the root cause, it might be that you are the one that unduly, because of an interest, okay, or because you want to create some level of familiarity to have access, by not following all these things I shared with you. You are not proving to establish trust based on your competency. You are not proving it based on your consistency and commitment. You are not proving based on the level of your integrity. Rather, you are trying to maneuver, also trying to manipulate your way in. At the end of the day, you make yourself unduly vulnerable. And unfortunately, if the person you are meeting has a dominant of a sanguine, the person will in turn outdo you in manipulating you. Okay, passionately manipulating you, and even makes it look like as if they are doing you a favor. So what you need to do is to retrace back yourself by, first of all, rediscovering yourself. It starts from self-awareness. You have to rediscover yourself. Start from day one, what we started talking about. Rediscover yourself, and then follow through the path of building skills on effective communication. Because there are some people that they don't want to hear no. Like, you want to just cut off relationship with them. You want to stop communicating with them. So what do you do in that case so that they don't take offense? Because there are some people you still don't want to offend because they will take it the other way around. When they feel offended, they will publish to the whole world. And guess what? You don't even have as much power as they do. When they publish to the whole world will believe them before they believe you. That kind of a thing. So you want to also apply wisdom and follow through the path of withdrawal system. And so there are quite a number of things, and they are scenario based. So I wouldn't want to give you, because I really don't have a full grip of what your particular scenario is in order to be able to advise you on what are the critical steps you need to take one-on-one. But just look at holistically everything I've explained to you, and then learn through the process and see how to, from self-awareness, discover yourself, know your personality type, know the person's own using EQ, and then you can now see the best way by which you can uh, uh, um, restore yourself, and make yourself to be above the person. Because guess what? Most of the people you are going to be having conversation with may not even have the depth knowledge of everything we are talking about. So you stand a better chance, of always being the boss. And that's how it works. And it will always be on your own terms. I don't know whether that's helpful enough. There's another
Yes, thank
question
you.
here. Oh, excellent. There's another question here from Utsman. They say, to attain rapport, can I say one need to understand the attitude, mindset of a person one is communicating with so as to attain the psychological control of direct communication? Very simple. Absolutely, yes. That's why from the one I've been telling you that it's not just about yourself, it's about the other person or other people. In fact, it's more complicated if you're not dealing with groups of people. As a leader, especially if you're a leader. So that means you are not just intuitively determining the disposition, the character, the temperament of one person, of many people, diverse groups, right? And this occurs most times when you work in collocated teams, okay? And to make the case worse, if you are working in displaced teams, displaced in the sense that you have virtual teams, just like here now. Some of you are over there outside Nigeria, some are outside Lagos, some are here in Lagos in different locations. I mean, just imagine how intuitively will I be able to discern your individual disposition? Is the power of emotional intelligence. Is the power of emotional intelligence, which is part of what we're going to discuss. Because if you don't attain certain level of EQ, it might be difficult for you to be able to relate effectively and create rapport. Okay, it might be very, very difficult because you will meet, human beings are highly irrational. Human beings are highly illogical, right? When you tell people yes, there will be that deviance inside someone that will say that no, that you don't want is what I want to do. They just have this rebellious spirit. And it might be one, it might be two. Some might even take it higher. There is not just only rebellious, it's also chaotic. That's a higher level of rebellion. When someone is not just only rebellious, but also chaotic, will cause confusion with the rebellious act, and that is always unproductive. So how do you deal with all these misdemeanors? How do you deal with all these misbehaviors and dispositions? It has a high level of EQ, so that in trying to manage the communication and the situation, you don't destroy relationship, okay? Even if at the end of the day, the relationship is going to be cut off, you end up not destroying the people or the persons involved. I mean, so these are things that it's a journey that you need to walk through, and you keep learning and getting better at, right? So I don't know whether that helps. Which one? Loyalty versus trust, which is superior? I mean, I should ask you, Chris. I should ask you, based on everything I've said, which one do you think is superior? Loyalty, trust? The simple way to understand is one begat the other one. So trust is the chief, and when you have trust, you'll be able to get loyalty. But
You
when
went
there's
out. We didn't hear you.
what about now? Can you hear me now? Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay. I said I'm trying to answer the question asked by Chris. Loyalty versus trust, which one is superior? Definitely trust, because trust begets loyalty. Subsumed in trust is loyalty. When you have earned trust, you definitely have loyal followers or I mean, part of your connections is as a result of the fact that you have earned trust, and then you will be able to establish loyalty. And let me sound this warning. The fact that people are attracted to your relevance, to your values, to your disposition does not necessarily mean that all of them are going to be loyal to you. You need to be very careful. And that's why barrier setting, these are part of what we'll talk about subsequently. You need to know how to set barriers. You need to know how to create fences. You need to know how to establish mutual, what's it called now? Mutual exclusions. Okay. So if you don't do that, you will surely shortchange yourself, because there are people that will always come approaching you with ulterior motives. So how do you discern that? And God help you, might be on your unguarded moment when you think you are celebrating your success and your wins. And there are people who that is just their preoccupation. They are looking for your downfall. They are looking for ways to argue you down because they are not happy about your success, about the way you have been celebrated, about your strength. They just want to show off your weaknesses. And when you hear someone will tell you that, uh, uh, you don't want to see the other side of me, you know? So you don't want people to push you to the point where you never have to be telling them that you don't want to see the other side of me. So I mean, these are things that we all, including myself, we all need to continue to practice. And with practice, we can get to the point of perfection. Wow, time is fast spent. I think we should stop the conversation here because we can't exhaust it. So please make sure you read the book, Tim Laale. There are quite a lot of other books I can share with you, but as much as you would need, you can always reach out to me. Okay, so we end here. So for this particular assignment is for you to read a book, and I will ask you to give me a summary of the book, just on one page. And of course, it will be between now and end of the program. So I'm no rush. I don't ask you to go and read it within 24 hours, because I don't want you to just gloss over it, not to skim over it, but go through it. And by the time we're ending, I'll ask for you to submit. And make sure you remind me in case I forget. I think I should give Favor this task. So Favor, make sure you remind me on this particular assignment on day 9. Read Tim Laale's book, do one-page summary, and submit. Okay, all taking.
Yes, sir.
Susan, I'm sure you follow through to the end. So we're going to end here. Take care. Have a wonderful evening.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Good night.
Bye. Good night.